What's going on, Dragon Ballers? Welcome back to another video. We're here today with Rohit, who managed to snag top 8 at Nationals with Android 21. So first of all, I gotta say, Rohit is just one of the most consistent players. I think this is like the 4th time I've had him on the channel, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, he just kills it with absolute super rogue decks. So Rohit, how you doing today, man?
I'm doing good, man. How about you?
I am good, dude. Again, like I'm super happy to see you did so well with this deck. You know, me and you have been talking for a while, and Android 21 is just I like the deck a lot. What made you want to play 21? I know you've been playing it for some time, but why like this rogue deck against like any other rogue deck?
I mostly just like androids, and that's kind of how I started this game, playing Cell. And I was liking green a lot, but after they released blue green, I kind of just stuck with it for a while and set 8.
Gotcha. So yeah, overall, I mean, like the strategy of the deck, we'll see the list in a bit, but we have the just the ramping into the crazy boss monsters. I do think the Android 21 boss monster is one of the best boss monsters in the game, considering some of the ones that have like been nerfed and whatnot, and some of the ones that are relevant in the format. And just so you guys know, you guys watching out there, I am going to be posting Rohit's his tournament report down in the pinned comment, so make sure you guys go check that out. You can see his matchups and how he kind of like gives minor explanations of like how the matchups went. But anyways, we will get into the main board here. So we have 4 copies of Hell's Ultimate Weapon, 4 copies of Bad Omen, and 4 copies of Speedy Substitution. The reason I grouped these is because I imagine this is like some combination of what you want turn 1, right?
Yeah. So pretty much, this. I usually keep, like, if I open these 3, I'll usually just keep these. Sometimes if you don't think you'll see Bad Omen soon enough, you can just keep one, or you can just search one off the 18. But that's ideal, like turn 1 play, because if you're going second, you're gonna untap the one anyway.
Right, yeah. So it's kind of nasty where you can just charge Hell's Ultimate Weapon untapped, play Speedy Sub, and then like search for a Bad Omen, and then Speedy Sub can just replace the Super 17 with the Bad Omen, and that gets you a turn 2 like untapped charge. Is that right?
Right, and then you can have your 18 counterplays live with your Unison if you find it.
Right. Speaking of Unison, we have our turn 2 play, Android 16 energy amplification. So I am definitely curious about your Unison ratios here, because I think one of the minor faults of Android 21 is that she doesn't draw like a crazy amount of cards inherently. So with that in mind, like, yes, you ramp a ton of energy and that kind of accelerates your plays, but you play a lot of Unisons. Once you get Boo online, that's great because he starts drawing you more cards. But was Super Android 13 really like that vital in your opinion?
I think so, especially against aggro. You need to see it early. It's not, you don't have to play it on turn 1 or I mean, if you go second, you can play it on turn 1 when you give them clone tokens, but a lot of the times you kind of want them to attack you with the tokens, as you can get a bunch of cards, and on your awaken turn you can use your leader effect twice and then draw 2, so you're drawing 4 cards. So it doesn't feel that bad to just get attacked by your tokens. Boo actually was okay, is mostly like a finisher or something to get rid of Unisons for, like a double strike for another Unison, but it's not, it honestly didn't feel that great to play.
I see. So is there maybe like another Unison you're considering for the deck, or just not really any other ones that are that great?
No, I think Boo is just already ridiculous. I think it's very strong. It's a big reason I couldn't finish a game against Android 16 earlier, but like he defended it super well, and I just couldn't get in on that card. But I think it's good where it is, and sometimes when you don't see your Android 13, you can ramp and play your Boo on 3. So that's something that'll like turn all your Unison related cards online.
Gotcha. And then we have a lot of like counterplays, counterattacks that go with the Unisons. So obviously your 4 copies of God Sealing, 3 copies of Heroic Prospect. This is a card that I feel like is kind of hit or miss this format. There are some decks that do attack with like, cheated cost battle cards, and some that don't. So how did Heroic Prospect do for you?
No, this card is really great, just because your Unison is live so early. Usually in blue deck you don't get a Unison live till later, but I think that's one of the biggest like reasons to play this deck is the Unison card. And I just even late game, it's still a decent card just to have as a counter. It seems kind of weird to say, but I don't really use D-Magic that much. I don't really like that card because I have so much energy that like I don't need to untap sometimes.
Yeah, that actually makes a lot of sense. Like, especially like you have some arrivals in the deck, but like not. I wouldn't say this is like an arrival based strategy or anything like that. So it does make sense that you don't always need all that energy. And I know Android 18 Let the Battle Begin is an absolutely nutty card, but why don't you just explain like some of the best applications for it and why it's so good?
It's also a blocker, and it counters anything 4 or less being played. So you can your opponent's already having to play around your field card to have the first card not be able to attack. So you can kind of and it's a very good disruption early game, especially against Sin Shenron, especially it helped against bottom nicking their 4 cost, so they never resolve it.
That's nasty. That's nasty.
Yeah, or you can even just activate the counterplay to play it as a blocker. It's just it just has so much use in this deck, and it's live from turn 1.
Yeah, with that Super Android 13 Unison, yeah, it's super nasty for sure. And then we do have some of the Arrival cards. So Android 16 Steadfast Ally. This card's really cool in this deck because it lets you play either of your Android 21s. So you can play Bad Omen or you can play Beautiful Scientist, which I think is cool. You only include 1 copy of. This is kind of like a Yu-Gi-Oh logic. I don't actually know if you played Yu-Gi-Oh before DBS, did you?
A little bit, but nothing seriously. I played Tag Force or something, but that's it. Nothing actual competitive.
Gotcha. So that's kind of like a Yu-Gi-Oh logic where you have a card that can search this card directly from the deck. So you play 1, but it's a little skewed in DBS because it might end up in your life or it might not. You just don't know until you do a deck search. But with 56 cards, you're actually just drastically lowering the odds of putting it in your life, I think. So it is pretty cool that you can snag the one of Beautiful Scientist to keep ramping. But was Steadfast Ally ever a bit too expensive or not really?
I would try to use it as early as possible, just because when you ramp, you can arrival it on 3. So if I'm against a slower deck, I would use it aggressively to ramp again, or you can use it to ramp on your opponent's turn. It's just added defense where you can KO anything with this card, or I had the one of as an option just because if there's a slow deck that has a better late game than me, I want to get to my late game before they do.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to find this one of, because I don't want to ever just cast this for 4, but having the option to play it on board turns is good. And the 16, just being able to play Bad Omen, if you're playing against Gogeta and they're trying to buff their 1-drops and go all in with them, you can try to steal a game that way. That never happened, but I mean it's something I like to include.
Yeah, that is pretty cool. Critting your opponent's life on their turn is pretty nasty, but it is also sick. I love the Steadfast Ally play with Beautiful Scientist because you bring in a 25k attacker that rips a card when it swings, and you bring in Beautiful Scientist who KOs a card and ramps an energy and then can block another attack. So all that is just absolutely insane value. And then what's up with the one of Goku Gohan Sands of Earth?
So this is a card I was playing before as well. It's one of those things where if somebody thinks you're going to go into your kill turn, on turn 7 or turn 8, or 7 or 8 energy, they're going to try to all-in you. A lot of the times they'll try to pressure you. So it's just a way to get out of battle without having to combo too many cards. And sometimes it does come up sometimes where you can put a card that's off color in their energy to mess up their super combos or final flashes or something like that.
That is another pretty nasty play for sure. I definitely appreciate you going through all these minor crazy plays because they do come up and they can be game changing for sure.
Mm.
All right, then we have the B for the deck. So we have the 2 copies of 1718 Siblings Revived. Again, I think this card's incredible. Board wipe, attack, rip 4 cards out of their hands. Also got deflect. Also untaps 1. Scholarly Gambit is very important for those of you guys that don't know because the field card also affects you, the Android 21 player. So you have to have a free play battle card to play, eat up that summoning sickness, and then you can attack with your Siblings Revived. And then Piccolo Assembly Ability. I know this is a pretty partial tech for you, so why don't you go talk about that one?
Yeah, so Piccolo carried me so hard the whole weekend. This card just does so much, and especially with Activate Battle, it just it gives you some extra draw power. And a lot of people I guess it's a card that's been out of the meta for a while. It's just a card you can play super easily in here, especially since it's 1 green. If it wasn't 1 green, it's gonna be really hard to play because you won't see dual color some games. You'll see 1 dual color and the rest will be blue. So just being able to play with the 1 green is really good. And if you don't see Scholarly Gambit to play around the field, you can even just, since you don't attack the whole game, when you attack, your opponent will want to do something because you haven't given the opportunity the whole game. Sometimes they'll negate, they'll try to arrival something, but that'll also take up the field effect, so you don't have to look for Scholarly Gambit, or you can try to have that take the summoning sickness before you play your 8-drop.
Oh, gotcha, right, because it's the first battle card played period per turn, not just the first card that you play per turn, right?
Right, yeah. So if they negate with the Mecha Negate or something like that, or Topo, sometimes I play the 8-drop, eat through a Topo, and I'll discard 2 just so I can look at their hand.
Gotcha. And then for the final stuff for the main deck, 4 super combos, of course, 4 Bean, 1 Baby Hatch, and 3 D Magic. That's gonna pretty much round out the main board. Off the top of your head, anything you would maybe consider changing, or were you pretty happy with the main board?
I'd try to cut down some cards somewhere. I just kind of threw in the Sun Goku Gohan Saiyan Zevert at the last minute. It was 54 cards without the field, but with it, it's 55, and then I just threw that in as a 56 card. It's just like some games you won't see our unison, and that can like really mess you up. So I still don't know what I would cut. I like being at 4. I like all my counters at 4 because there's a lot of times people will do plays and say if you have it, you have it, and then I kind of always want to have the counter for it.
For sure, for sure. All right, and then why don't you just kind of roll us through the sideboard?
Yeah, so actually this is the main thing I was working on was the sideboard. I didn't change the main deck too much, but I wanted an extra copy of the 8-drop against slower matchups because if you don't see it or if it dies, you want to just keep casting this card. This card is literally like the reason I won most of my games. The third copy of Piccolo, just because against certain matchups, like some decks can't get around this card. I've noticed it's just you leave it out there, they can't kill it. If you have 2, they can both kill 2 cards and draw you 2 cards a turn. The Heroic Prospect is just against big decks. It's just another one of to kind. I'm just kind of like rounding up my numbers for the main deck. The draw 2 18 was it was mostly first. It was first Cell Surge. Because if you put it in your energy, you can play it off your Super 17 when you tap 7, and you can draw 2 cards or draw 4 cards or however. It didn't come up. I played against Cell in the top 16 against Jordan, and I never got to 7 energy, so it didn't come up. But I got to play for 3 and draw 2. The Blue Impulse, you don't get the energy cost reduction, but if your opponent plays a card on your turn, you can KO all their battle cards. So since you're not attacking the whole game, once you attack, if they decide to do something, you can just blow up their whole board. The Roshi Maximum Muscle, a lot of people told me to take this out of my sideboard, but I just love this card. And like if you ramp twice, you could play it. You could play it pretty early, and it just kind of sits around. It did work in some of my matchups. In some matchups, I just didn't want to play it. Even if I had like 7 energy, I wouldn't play it because I wanted to keep everything open just to combo and defend. And Vegeta Rated Rumble, it didn't come up that often. I just thought it would be neat against Gogeta, just because you can count the number of attacks they have. So if you're out there on 4 energy, you negate with this, they'll have 4 more attacks, and then you can just, if you defend those, you get another turn. And Villainous Counter-Strike, it's live because you can you give them skillless tokens. So you can warp anything that adds up to 4. So it's good against Gogeta, it's good against Red Warp, Divine Presence on your turn. So as long as they have tokens, you can warp anything that's active at battle. So it's not something people are like looking for, I guess, but it helped a lot against Gogeta.
Yeah, Villainous Counter-Strike is a super nasty tech for this deck because, again, you just like inherently turn it on. Like it might as well not say if your opponent has a skillless battle card in your deck because it's just automatically live. One thing I just thought of that I should definitely ask you earlier on, but what do you think are like the good and bad matchups for this deck?
Bad matchup is definitely hand destruction. Any type of hand destruction hurts. I was a little stubborn in citing for it. I didn't put any Draw Monkeys or Deborahs. The Deborah, if you play it in this deck with your field card, will just put it in the draw. You still get to draw the 2, you just don't get the 15k. But I didn't want to ramp any black battle cards, or just cards that are like off-color energy, because if you ramp a green, or if you ramp a black, you won't get to play your Boo on 4 if you need to. So that's why I kind of like limited those numbers as much as I could. But it was just me being stubborn because I don't like changing my deck that often. But the side was mostly what I worked on.
Gotcha. And then what do you think are some of those like the easiest matchups for this deck?
I think probably the easiest matchup, any deck that wants to go late, because your win con is so insane. Like being able to look at somebody's hand and clear their board in 1 card just feels really good. I think usually yellow plays pretty defensively. I don't think unless they decide to like start like pressuring you, you don't really attack them. You don't give them option to use their defensive cards, but usually you would just ramp and defend until you play your 8-drop. And usually anything that gets walled by Piccolo is usually not that hard either, just because if he just wins you the game on your own, you don't even have to get to your win con.
Gotcha. All right, Rohit. Well, I do definitely appreciate you going through this with us. Any shout outs you want to throw out there?
Yeah, there's so many people I met this weekend. Just honestly, like shout out to Dallas, like the whole community there. They all supported me for the longest time playing this deck. Just everyone I met there was great. Like shout out to you, your channel. Let's say you keep this community going too. And yeah, all the judges there as well. Honestly, it's too hard to remember all the people I like that to shout out. But no, this community is great, and I'm glad to keep playing this game.
Awesome, man. I really appreciate your words, and I definitely agree with you, man, on the community being awesome. Thank you, and we'll see you next time.
All right, sounds good.